This podcast is made in collaboration with the Jewish Journal.
If you're looking for a stable, financially secure, safe career, one profession you definitely want to stay as far away as you can from is journalism. There's a reason Jewish mothers aren't praying for their kids to become doctors, lawyers, or journalists. But at the end of the day, journalism is one of the main pillars of modern society, and many would even say it's a pillar of democracy. Itai Anghel is a household name in Israel, but while his name lives comfortably in every home in Israel, Itai himself does quite the opposite. Since the early 90s, Itai has been flying to and covering the most conflict-ridden regions in the world, from Bosnia, Rwanda, and Kosovo in the 90s to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Lebanon in the 2000s. This decade, Itai has covered the civil war in Syria and the war against ISIS in Iraq. While most wars drive people away, it seems that war draws Itai Anghel in. Itai started his career out, as many journalists in Israel do, in the army radio. He worked as a reporter for Israel's primetime Friday night news show, Ulpan Shishi, where he prepared documentary pieces. And later, he worked for Uvda, one of Israel's leading news magazine shows. We are thrilled and honored to be joined by Itai Anghel on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, great.
You also won a luxurious prize here in Israel, right, for your work?
Sokolov Award.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, the
Israeli
equivalent of
Pulitzer.
Pulitzer, but, it's Israeli.
Yeah.
Before we get to the episode, guys, I have to tell you about our sponsors over at the Chosen One card game. Let's face it, we Jews, we're not really good at sports or keeping our opinions to ourselves. But we're not bad at funny. We do funny all right. The Chosen One card game is certified hilarious. Okay, you get a huge set of Jewish-themed question and answer cards, and you match them up, and the funny combinations are hilarious. And best of all, of course, it's Shabbat friendly, so you can play it on Shabbat. Noah and I were playing this game before we recorded, and we were literally cracking up from the first combo. Apparently, the reason I don't go to temple anymore is because of Gene Simmons. This game is a must-have for any Jew who considers himself a Jew. The Chosen One card game, guys. Visit thechosenonegame.com, thechosenonegame.com, and use the promo code 2NJB for a discount. Again, that's thechosenonegame.com, and use the promo code 2NJB for a discount.
So what does your mom say? What did she say when you told her, I'm going to war zone tomorrow, Mom?
My mom, my mom needed to be educated. The beginning was tough. My father is a businessman. He's got a PhD in business. So he told me, it might be the wisest thing you ever done. My mother was just, on the verge of freaking out completely. And, so actually from day one, beside journalism, I had to work on how to convince my mother that I'm in a very safe place and that she doesn't need to worry at all. So, in every single day of my life of covering world affairs and conflicts, comes the time when I have to take my satellite phone and talk to my mother and lie to the woman I love the most, for like 2 minutes. Bullshit, only lies, nothing is happening here. Don't believe the media, don't believe the news. I'm not in a dangerous place. I'm doing something about refugees, in the outskirts of everything. Don't worry about it.
And in reality,
that wasn't an explosion. It was just a rock concert.
Yeah. Actually happened. Not me with my mom, with my wife. In Mosul, I gave someone the phone, the satellite phone, and he couldn't speak a word in English. He was a Shia, Iraqi. And I told him, listen, I can speak a bit of Arabic. So I told him, listen, just say, no Daesh, no problem. Hello, Konjo. That's my wife's name. And then, hello, Konjo, no problem, no Daesh. When you give someone else the phone to talk to your wife or mother, it brings a special effect, because they don't believe me anymore. But if someone else coming, immediately they start to laugh. So all the mayhem, theoretically of the place, disappear. And then he said, "Hello, Konjo, no problem." So she asks him, so what is happening? No problem. No, he lost his, that's like the limit of his vocabulary. And then, there was a missile, coming from an aircraft. And he shows me, and I got it on tape, for myself, on film. And he shows me the smoke and just keep on going, man. No problem. No. Yeah.
Wow.
The real problem comes when I come and I'm not, bringing any dispatches while in there. I just collect a lot of materials and then I edit my documentary. And when they watch my documentary, my credibility, I completely lost it with my wife and my mother in this regard. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they don't buy it anymore when you tell them
No, not
there's
really.
a problem.
No.
So what led you to take on this crazy lifestyle?
Well, I began my journalism life, as you said, in the Army radio station, which unlike, the name of it sounds like a military mouthpiece, but it was exactly the opposite. I mean, just imagine, 80% of the workers, of the journalists, of the music editors are within the range of 18 to 21, so it's very young and lively radio station, and we just wanted to break the rules. We didn't give a damn, to the fact that we belong to the army. And actually the army, chief of staff back then was Ehud Barak. He said that he wants to close this radio station. He doesn't see any advantage in it. But it become such an institution in Israeli culture, so he couldn't close it. What I want to say, it's an amazing place to begin your career as a journalist. And I was a foreign affairs editor. But as a foreign affairs editor, who happened to be, an Israeli soldier, you cannot really go out. You're just, confined to a very, very small place. And you talk about places you've never been in. You're making comments about people you never met. And I thought, that's life. And I did it fine. And, people were very satisfied with me. And I happened to get this job, exactly when all the world turned upside down. I got it in May 89. 2 weeks later, it was the massacre in Tiananmen Square in Beijing. 2 months later the Berlin Wall came down. All the Eastern Bloc collapsed. Then, it was the turn of the Soviet Union to be dismantled. Nelson Mandela got out of prison, the end of the apartheid, so it was foreign affairs all over. And, and I became an important journalist, unlike what I thought and unlike what the network thought, because when they give you foreign affairs editor, foreign affairs in Israel, which is a very provincial country, doesn't seem much. Mm-hmm. But, it was such a dramatic, period of time. And I remember that was my first hesitation, in Tiananmen Square. We regarded very, very highly, the commentators, not the field correspondents. Field correspondent, in Hebrew, you call it katav. So he had like a bad nickname for katav. We said ktavlav, like your little doggy, you need to go and work hard. We were very young and obnoxious group of people. And I thought, being a commentator, this is the thing. You want to be a pundit, you want to be like an expert, even though you've never been, 1 minute in the field. And in Tiananmen Square, I realized, that all the experts just missing out. They were wrong. And the interesting information I got from these field correspondents. They were talking about, there was one division of Chinese soldiers who didn't do anything, and then came another division, and they see something in their eyes. It's not like a sentence, of an expert. It's something like from the field, and you think, whoa, it's not dignified. But then you realize, yeah, they got it. And then they started, rolling tanks on the citizen. And it became even bigger, when all the Eastern Bloc, Soviet Bloc, collapsed, because again, all the commentators and the most respected experts in the world just collapsed along with the wall. They didn't get it. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what is happening. They said what they think would happen, and it was absolutely wrong. And then I realized, no, journalism is not what I've been thinking all the time. You need to go out, because till that point of time, it worked because the world was sort of like built like an hierarchy. You have like the people at the top, and they rule the world, and they play with the
Chess.
little people like
Yeah.
little soldiers. But sometimes everything is turning upside down when revolutions come. So the people at the top, are not relevant anymore. So if there are your sources as an expert or a journalist, it doesn't count anymore. So you will be wrong. And in order to understand what is happening, you need to go out, you need to go to the field. And this is where I realized that's what I want to do. And I needed to wait, till the duration of my service in the army will finish, and I will
'Cause
become a citizen.
You can't leave
Yeah.
Israel while you're in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
military. So when's the first time that you actually get the chance to kind of pack your bags and go somewhere?
It was 1991, and then the war in Croatia began, even before Bosnia. Bosnia was
Great
not-
after army
92.
vacation.
yeah. By the way, I didn't have any vacation after the army until like
Until today.
2001. 2001. Only like 10 years later, and then I went to Croatia, and it was a crazy move, because no one wanted me to go. When I told the head of this army radio station that I want to go, he kind of laughed at my face because, like, I mean, we are Israelis. We're not supposed to cover affairs of other people. And, if there is something happening in the world, I mean, you're not the one that I would think about because, I'm not a field correspondent. I've been, in a room for 2.5 years talking. I can talk nicely about people, but I never had, like, the field experience. And I don't look like, someone who will manage, in a place of conflict. He really laughed at my face, and no one financed me. So actually, it was on my expense, to go there, like with sleeping bag, with a tent. I don't know what I've been thinking, but that's the beginning. Beginning is not logic. Beginning is only passion, and I'm really, really happy that I did it.
And so I saw you talk about this in another interview that you assured people, don't get it wrong, that you are terrified when you are in these places. And just to kind of convey to our listeners, when you mean you don't look like the kind of person, Itai is like very tall but lanky. You're kind of like, you look like you might, like you're not exactly
I'm very,
there.
very, very skinny.
Yeah.
I'm the last one people will think about, when they think about someone in a place where war is taking place. Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is where did that, because for me that's courage, is like standing in the face of fear, being terrified but still standing. So where do you think that courage comes from? Is it maybe from the fact that you weren't like this big guy,
By the way, I mean, I thought it is a disadvantage of mine, the way I look. I mean, at the beginning, it was like a dream of mine to become a field correspondent, to feel the heartbeat, to see how things really look like from within. But then, at the first time, I was so terrified. And what made it even more, problematic for me, I saw the other people, other correspondents, and everybody was
Puffed.
so big and so macho, They looked like, warriors themselves. And I thought to myself, these are real men. Look at you, skinny boy on the verge of tears. I really was. And this is not a place for you. And it happened, the second
What was
time.
the breaking point at the first, was there...
I mean, in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, I just ran away. I just wanted to go away. Like, it was like the sad acknowledgement that, admit it, you ain't got it. And I wanted to run away, but the problem was that running away from Sarajevo was more dangerous than staying in Sarajevo, because Sarajevo was, it was walls and building all over, so you could take a hide, from the snipers on the hills. But when you went out of Sarajevo, you were completely exposed, and there were numerous journalists who were killed, on their way out. So I stayed in Bosnia because I was frightened. And then, after 2 days, there was a ceasefire. So I took my chance to get out. And, this is where everything happened. I fulfilled my dream in the sense that people talk to me. All of a sudden, they talk to me, and they talk to me much more than they did to the journalist that I adored till that moment, the macho-like journalist. And there was a horrifying phenomena, for example, in Bosnia, there was a systematic raping of women. And a friend of mine, we became friends while in there. He was a Dutch guy. He was so big and, like so macho. And he told me, it's horrifying, but these women, they're not talking about it. And it took me a while to understand why they wouldn't talk to him about it, because when you see the way he looks, even though he's a very nice man, his appearance might remind these women or other victims, like children,
Aggressor.
Yeah, the aggressor, that attacked them. And you can say a lot of things about me, but like you, in a very understatement way, hinted, I cannot, no one, if I enter a room, say, oh my God, look who's coming, let's run away. No, that's not the way I look. So, I mean, I look so skinny and I look like, I have like a baby face. All the things that I thought, sort of a disadvantage.
You also have a soothing voice. It reminds me of a soothing voice. And it reminds me of what they say about...
I think this is the problem.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
It reminds me of Louis Theroux. They say he hypnotizes his interviewees when he's like penetrating them with his ease of being, and I don't know. And do you find yourself hypnotizing people from time to time, interviewees?
I don't think I'm hypnotizing people. I mean, Louis Theroux has got his way. He's not like other journalists, in his approach. But don't forget, Louis Theroux coming with a set of people, of a very famous network. So he's surrounded by cameraman, assistant cameraman, soundman, producer, all over. So it's like a bunch of guys with them.
And you?
So
alone?
I'm alone. Most of the time, I'm alone.
So you're the
completely by
director,
myself.
the talent,
I'm a
producer.
cameraman. I'm a cameraman. I do the sound. I do everything. So again,
you choose it that way so that you can be more intimate, or it's just a production?
It became like something that I didn't have the luxury and the budget, to have a crew.
So kind of from circumstance, it just became the way.
In the radio, you need to take just a tape, when you can do it by yourself. Then even with the TV, we didn't have any budget. We're not CNN, we're not BBC. And so I had to try and do everything. And again, I was very jealous, with the big crews of like the CNN, BBC. I mean, it's like 10 people, on a mission. It's like the correspondent, with tie, suit, makeup, look very impressive. And then, cameraman, assistant cameraman, soundman with a big boom, big microphone, translator, fixer. And, in war zones, you have like 2, sometimes more, bodyguards. And bodyguards will be like ex-Navy SEALs with machine guns. So they look very impressive. And in relay, in comparison to them, I didn't impress anyone. But then you realize it's an advantage, because people don't relate to you. So if you have a problem with the ego, okay, hey, pay respect for me, I'm on a TV and some of my documentaries that are being broadcast all over the world. No. I like it. It needs to stay like that. People watch like the big crew leaving and they're saying, okay, the media is left and we are left with this guy. I don't look like a media.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks impressive on the screen, but while in there, it's like the real media left and we are left with, someone who is working for Matnasim. I don't know how to translate it into English.
Yeah. No, I guess it's an advantage to be approachable and to be able to talk to these people.
Yeah, I mean, in this region, it is very important not, to look scary and to look intimidating, because people are very much afraid from all over. It's not like in Israel that you have an army. In those places, you have army, you have militias, you have sub-militias, you have gangs, you have prisoners who were released out of prison because, at that point of time, they were the only one who had the guts to fight. And with all these people around you, people would be very, very cautious, before they're opening their mouth and speak, because some people will not find what they have to say in a likable way. So when they see someone who looks like a warrior himself, when you're in a state of fear, you will not talk to him.
Right.
And when
Yeah.
he sees me, not me personally, they don't know me, but someone who looks like, okay, he doesn't have a lot of crew, he doesn't look threatening or intimidating, yeah, let's try.
What's the most horrendous scenario or place you've ever been and you said to yourself, like, that's hell on earth?
I don't have one. I was asked this question a few times, but I never have one answer. Because, every time I thought, okay, this is the most horrible thing and situation I ever been in, another one is coming, and I would change, my choice. When I try to think of it, I will give you not even a war. It was a tsunami in Aceh, Indonesia. We were in a place that were more than 200,000 bodies, almost 250,000 bodies over there. And you cannot breathe. I mean, when you breathe the smell of death. And you cannot even convey it to the audience, because something, even if you can describe very good, you cannot describe smell. What would you say about smell? And you're on the verge of collapse because you need to breathe. You need to move, and you need to move very hard because you need a lot of energy because everything is mud, and little mountains, and you need to climb in order to tell the story. And philosophically, I was like distressed. It's like God from upstairs, knocked this place down, and I thought I will never see anything like it in my life. But then, then you get out, miraculously from a battle in Lebanon. Some other people were killed and you're alive. Then you go along with a colleague, a friend of mine, James Foley. We went inside Syria together the same week, November 2012.
James Foley's the reporter that was
Beheaded.
Beheaded.
Yeah. And actually, me, when I got inside along with Amir Tibon, now he's a correspondent in Washington for Haaretz. He was a researcher in Uvda. We went inside into Idlib region. We knew that James Foley did, the same entrance, but he took another path. So this path led him to another territory because Syria is torn into territories.
Mm-hmm.
We met very sympathetic people, when we got in. And, a few kilometers away, he approached people who sold him to ISIS, and this is the way he was beheaded. So I cannot choose like one thing that rise above the rest, as the most horrifying. There were quite a few.
So, how do you end up dealing with all this? Because I think it's safe to say that for an average person, many of these experiences would probably be horrifically traumatizing. It would put them in a place of, maybe permanent PTSD. But you kind of managed to...
Or who says who?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I'm
mean-
just saying, I wonder, how do you kind of cope with it? Do you know?
First of all, if I heard someone speaking like that before I started, being a journalist, I would be sure that it would be, something is wrong with this guy, or something will be wrong with this guy, and this is not something that I would never ever do. But, when you do it, two things. One, you get to a different mode of the normal world you are operating in. And I cannot explain it. It's something that just happened. Whenever I cross a border, for example, you feel something in your chest, like it's being expanded. You're being very focused. I'm not like a focused man, in my normal life. I can be called like an astronaut, by my friends, but I become like a German man. I become so focused about everything. And
It was not PC.
and then you work and something comes out of you that wouldn't come, on a regular basis. Then you
Like a
realize,
soldier in war.
Yes and no. I mean, a soldier in war, and I saw it when I joined soldiers in the Lebanon of the Nahal regiment.
This is Second Lebanon War.
Yeah. So on the one hand, yeah, but on the other hand, you're with friends. It's different. Okay, you risk your life. You walk into a village and you know that there is going to be an encounter with Hezbollah forces. but you're surrounded by, like 200 people, friends of yours. These are brothers, like brothers in arms. When I go to places, I'm alone. I don't have anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And, and beside, the fear of the war and the bullets and the grenades, my even biggest fear is, if someone will reveal who I am and where I'm from, in places like Syria or Iraq or Lebanon or Libya, it might be even more dangerous. So I don't have the luxury. I know it sounds like a crazy sentence. I don't have the luxury to be afraid of the war. But to your question, you come back, and I think one of the things is that, you have a pretty rough experience, but, for 3 weeks on the average, and then you will be back in Israel. You can go drink something, you can go to the beach, you can be again with your friends. So, there is like horizon when you enter the place. It's not like the other Syrians or the other Bosnian, who will be stuck there for years.
You
Or
have
maybe-
refuge.
Yeah, so it's, it gives you a lot of energy and vitality for this period of time. And then I realized, individually speaking, that I'm able to go on. It's not, that I don't feel, because I feel very much. I don't believe that a correspondent, a journalist can do this line of job if he doesn't really care and have feelings. So I think about it and I reflect about it, and whenever there is a need, I would go, to a professional, to talk about it, because I want to. I don't want to pretend to be the macho that everything is fine with me, and then, when you're 60 or 70, you become a bit mad because you didn't, confront all these demons.
I might this might sound like cheap psychology, but I read somewhere that you actually overcame cancer as a child. Might
Yeah.
that have I don't know. I mean, maybe it was kind of confronting death at such a young age.
I understand the question, but it is.
You don't make.
I
you
wouldn't
don't see
say
the
cheap
connection.
psychology because, it makes sense, but it happened when I was 17. It was very difficult, to experience it as someone who is 17, as, do a lot of surfing and, a lot of friends and scouts and life is fine and a lot of energy. And then, boom. And you go through chemotherapy and radiation for almost 1 year. Since the beginning, there was they told me you're going to be fine because your immune system of a young man is fine, and the sort of growth that you have, is not too much severe. I mean, if you won't do anything, he will not be here. But if you go through this therapy, you will be fine. So it was in my head. But I think mainly because I was 17, I was a young man. My mother, she's a biochemist, and she knew everything about it. But when I didn't ask her, question about my illness, when I was ill, and at the end of this period of time, when I, became healthy again, she told me, you were very lucky to be stupid. There was not you didn't think about the meaning of everything and the philosophy of everything. Like, I have a cancer, what's the meaning of life? Will I be here? What is life? What is death? No, I was 17 years old, very upset, that I have to stay in line, to go to a room in a hospital, and I cannot go to surfing because you cannot be exposed to the sun. And I was furious, about it. That was a trauma. That was a tragedy. And my mom, she was clever enough, to, okay, let's maintain this line of tragedy for him. Yeah, it's horrible. You're right. You cannot surf. So there was no meaning, Tuk knock on wood, but if I had it, 20 years later, you become too sophisticated, intelligent human being who reflect, but a 17-year-old boy is not. So, immediately, 6 months after I was healed, I remember we went to a restaurant, all the family, and something that I wanted on a menu, they didn't have it, and I was so upset, and I said, no, it's horrible, and it is a tragedy, and my father was laughing, oh, okay, you're healthy now, huh? So there was no...
It didn't really weigh down on you.
No, and I try to think about it, again and again when people ask me, but not really, I gotta tell you, no.
So this this decade, because I mean, there's plenty to talk about before that. But you were recently in Syria. I mean, not recently, but
I've been 3 times in Syria.
yeah. And the first one was right at the beginning, 2012, right?
At the same week of the entrance of James Foley, November 2012.
So what was that like? I mean, was it just kind of normal?
Actually, we didn't plan it,
Mm-hmm.
It sounds weird, but we wanted to do like a report, a documentary about the situation in Syria without getting inside Syria through the stories of the refugees who came to Turkey. So we went to Turkey, when they were concentrated on the border. There were like thousands of them already back then. And they were living also, in houses by the border, but on the Turkish side. And we became friends, me and Amir, and we made interviews with them. And then, I felt like, okay, we have what we need, good interviews. The only thing I can think about is like we lack the visual side. So I just wanted, to film, from the Turkish side, the land of Syria. It's like you go, to our border and you film Lebanon from, Israel, from the border. We didn't have any idea to get in. But then, I asked one of the interviewees if I can go on the top of his roof because, you can see, the mess from there. It was like the best angle. And so, yeah, sure, man, no problem. Let me have you some coffee. And everything was really nice. And I took some... And I was filming a little bit, and it's funny, as an Israeli, you see a border, but you don't see a border fence. So what's going on? But you do watch, some Turkish soldiers, patrol. And I asked him, and this guy, the Syrian people over there tell me, yeah, we go inside Syria and we come back to Turkey and we go and fight in Syria and then we come back, So, okay, they let you go in and come back? No, it's not allowed. So how do you manage to do it? Well, we wait for them to cross. It's very easy, to trick them, and we get in. So I said, like half laughing. So you can get me in if I want? Yeah, no problem. And then, okay. I look at Amir. I approach him. Amir, would you like to get in? I mean, I don't want to be like the crazy one who took a normal guy inside. And
for you, it's just another day in the office. But for him, it's...
Yeah, and Amir said, yeah, I would love to get in, man. Okay. And then I realize, I tell this guy, listen, we have $100, to give you. Is it enough, for you to smuggle us inside? Yeah, your friend, it's absolutely enough. Let's do it. And then, I thought, okay, it's crazy. Because Syria was crazy, Tunisia, Egypt, even Libya was fine. But Syria, it's like a police state. It's absolutely crazy. And would you go inside
Chaos
Syria?
and mayhem.
Yeah, it was a mayhem. And so I thought, maybe before taking a decision like that, I have to think more. I have to reflect more. I have to advise more. I need to consult people, like maybe I will call my editor. Maybe I will call some people. And then, I realized, no. Exactly the opposite. I mean, not any editor or not any expert can give me like experience of how it is to get inside. I mean, because no one is doing it more than I do. So what can I ask him about, just to get a permission? And I don't want a permission or to hear that I cannot go inside.
As they say in Hebrew, it's a kickback question.
Yeah, it is.
Question that you better know.
Better not ask the rabbi.
Yeah, of course. He would not let me. And then he wouldn't, even if he wanted me to go inside, he cannot be the one who authorized me to go inside Syria.
He doesn't want that on his conscience.
Exactly. So, and then I realized, like we live in an age that everything is being, quoted and everything. Like when you talk on the phone, someone is listening. When you send an email, someone can, take it. So you cannot even plan a journey inside Syria because it will be known to someone who managed to take your phone call or to watch a text of yours or an email, especially when it's on the border, with all the intelligence of everybody. And for some, coincidence, it happened that I have an opportunity to get inside with no phone call, with no email, with not discussing about it, with not planning it. Nobody knows. This is gold. It'll never happen.
Like a ninja.
No, no one knows about it. So this is my chance. And then we decided to go inside. And as I told you, it was fine. The people were very, very sympathetic to us, and even
Yeah, just because you took that route and not that route.
right.
I remember now what your
By
father
the way,
told you.
we told them that
You were lucky to be,
lucky to be stupid.
yeah, right?
But you can call it stupid, but it was like a brilliance of intellect to understand that you got a chance that you will never have in your life. Like,
So you do it again.
if I will do it again?
You would do it if, like, not
You were in the same situation.
if you were, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You have no regrets
Why should
in your
I?
career, like in your professional career.
Only regret that I didn't do it like twice as much. Yeah.
So you step into Syria. I mean, it's not just like total chaos. It's not like
No, I mean at the beginning, I mean it sounds weird because we have the word Syria. You know what comes to mind, but we enter like a small lake, behind the forest, and we get in, and then I ask, the one who smuggled us inside, are we in Turkey or in Syria now? No, already Syria. And then your heart, pumping. And it is so beautiful. This is the first word that comes to mind. It's like Toscana, really. Toscana in Italy. And this is what...
Now you bought me.
and this is, and you see, the places in the village, and the view that they have and the landscape. But then you see, the houses, are bombed because, okay. And this is how you realize, okay, this is a war zone. And you hear also a bit of shooting, behind the mountain. It's a very mountainous region. So we've been with the people, with the rebels, those who are fighting against Bashar Assad. And back then, these were the moderate Syrians to fight against Assad. It was very interesting. We were not engaged in battles ourselves. And then we even told them, we are Jewish. And they say, no problem. Welcome. Absolutely no problem. I even thought about telling them that I'm an Israeli, but I will never do it. Not because I scare for my life, I scare for them. Because if God forbid someone would realize that I'm an Israeli, and then he might say, hey, Muhammad knew that he's an Israeli and didn't do anything about it, so he might get in trouble. And I wouldn't like to get anyone in trouble,
all that time in Syria, though, you must have felt at some point, or maybe not just in Syria, but in other places, that your life was on the line. I mean, have you ever been in a situation where you felt like, okay, this might be it?
No. I mean, I know that I'm risking my life, but I never thought like, in a dramatic way that it might be my last hour. Never, I gotta admit.
But even if you didn't think it, I mean, objectively, there were situations like that?
Yeah. There were situations. As I told you, in Lebanon, they were shooting all over, and there were RPG, going between me and the soldiers that I was filming. You can actually watch it, in my documentary, like how it goes. That was luck. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, very frightening moment. In Syria, in Iraq. I've been 6 times in Iraq. It was very, very scary. And
you were in Mosul, right?
Yeah. Also in Mosul. Last time I've been to Mosul, it was the capital of ISIS, and it was a decisive battle, against ISIS. And it was very scary because we got inside, neighborhood of ISIS, and you can hear like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi voice, recorded, saying to everybody, go get them, go kill them, the suicide bomber, go get them. And they managed to get some of us. Us means like the Iraqi Shia army I joined. And then you realize that, your life depends upon the success of the Shia soldiers. Okay, so these are the good guys now. But if these Shia soldiers would realize that I'm an Israeli, I'm fucked up. I mean, really. I mean, an Israeli and this is like the elite unit. It is called the Golden Division. So everything is so crazy. I had a plan, in case something really goes wrong. Again, normally I become more scared when I watch like the thing that I filmed while in the editing room, because while in the field, I told you about this mode that I have. I'm so much focused, and I need to work, and I need to operate my camera. I have something to hold. I have something to work with. I have something, to aim. I'm occupying myself with a lot of work to do. I'm trying not to reflect. I think a lot of before coming to a place. I think even more when I come back. But, in action time, just to operate, not to have a lot of meanings, to life. And then when I watch my material, in the studio with the coffee, so this mode is already gone because you can relax yourself. And then, it looks like, wow, this is shit. This is crazy. How could I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Then it looks even more crazy. So I had a plan, in one time in Syria. It was like front line of ISIS, and knowing the fate of James Foley and knowing that they keep on killing people and beheading, whether it is journalists or other people that they get ISIS. If it gets to me, I just want to die. I never want, to be like under any torture. And then, like I spotted like the tallest building around. And if they manage like to take and to win the battle and they will try to execute anybody, all the people or, to torture them, I will run, to the roof of the building and I will jump. That was the only plan I had in life for one battle. And, luckily, nothing, came into action. And while in there, I think, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine and I will be back.
It's interesting. I wonder what I'm thinking is, what does it say about you that your choice of suicide is jumping from a height? Because there's guns around. You could say, okay, I'm going to grab a gun and shoot myself. You could choose all these different ways, but you chose, okay, the highest building, I'm going to jump.
It would make an amazing ending for the article, for the piece, like the shot.
Okay, listen very carefully. I never shot a gun, and I don't know how to shoot a rifle. No, I'm serious. I'm absolutely serious.
But in the IDF, didn't they take you to range?
No, because I volunteered to the IDF because of my illness. So I didn't even undergo like a basic training. So I never shot a rifle. Obviously, I will be able to shoot a gun, but that's not the time to begin.
Right.
Learning.
So appreciate my choice of jumping from a tall
I
building.
wonder though, Itai, like you come back here, it gives you perspective, I guess, right? Like and some interesting thoughts about our life here, the bubble, and
I love I love the fact that Tel Aviv is a bubble. I love
in
it.
Israel.
Yeah, I mean, that's the life I want to live, If in Israel, I want to be in Tel Aviv. I love Tel Aviv, and I'm not like running away from life. No, I want to encounter life, and I want to encounter the biggest hardship in life. But this is also part of life. I'm doing like surfing, kite surfing, windsurfing.
But don't you appreciate more?
My brother is a DJ. I'm playing guitar music, So that's life. This is also part of life. I don't call it a bubble. I love it,
No, but I mean, don't you appreciate more what we have here when you come back from that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, as an Israeli, and we are complaining all the time about everything in Israel, then you realize like what you have. Because you didn't think about it, before going outside. And when you come back, the fact that we have a state that, it has, its faults, but, still, the things that we do have are amazing. But, regarding proportions, I do appreciate everything, but you try to think, again, you don't do it while in there, but later you try to think, and even with friends, people who ask you questions about like your experience, I find it very difficult to have a conversation with them. I don't know. People ask me like, Israeli macho questions. So how is it? They were shooting. You were about to die. You don't feel like about talking. Yeah, man. It was hectic, fucking hectic. Yeah, man. Just leave me alone. I don't want to. It's very, very difficult. Even with my wife. I don't talk about it, never. I can talk about it only with people who've been there. Like I have a friend, a cameraman, his name is Gili Somech. He's also been in Mosul working for other news organization, a Chinese one. But, we've been in some strange situation together and we can talk. Not make it dramatic, when both of us, have this weight, the thing that you saw. And definitely, you come back, you appreciate things more, but Yeah, I mean, some people will say in life you need to go only where the good things happening and try to run away from all the bad things. And me as a journalist, I don't think so. I think it is all the package, and not because I was ill. It's like the full package. I mean, you will never be able to run away completely from everything. So you need to confront it. You need to digest it, and you need to. I really want to be engaged and to help if I can. By the way, not only doing journalism work. So it's like all the package. So you appreciate life, but it's not like you manage, to to do the running away, to the bubble and forget about this place. This place still exists in my mind.
I have to ask you, time is running out, but you got married.
Yeah.
And realistically, she took a huge risk, right? By marrying you. From her perspective.
Yeah, but
Is there like a pact, I wonder, or a deal, or like 2 more wars and that's it, or something?
She knows who she's dealing with. And by the way, I'm like a war correspondent, but when you think about it, it's like 1 month in the year I'm doing this field work. This is like the average. I mean, most of the time I'm here. I'm not like... But obviously...
Yeah, but that 1 month is...
Yeah.
That's quite a month.
Yeah. And then, it's... Of course, there is not a pact, but she expects me not to go there anymore.
Not to die. Also.
Following this phone conversation I told you about, when I told her that everything is fine and beautiful in Mosul and quiet and boring, and then she saw the documentary, and she had like this sentence, "You listen to me very carefully now. No more Iraq. No more Mosul. No more Netanya. You're not going even there
Netanya
anymore.
Is rough.
You're not going there anymore."
Sharon's from Netanya.
Also, her brother is from Netanya. Her brother is from Netanya, so she's laughing. You're not going even there anymore. No, you're not going out. And I said, yeah, okay. And actually, now we have a child. It will be 1 year old next month. So she doesn't have to tell me, when you watch him and when you realize that you're responsible for him. These were all the cliches coming out, but they are real. But, to be sincere, so I took a year off now. I was in a fellowship in the University of Michigan, and I'm glad, because it was the best timing that I could ask for, because I was really, really tired, and I really, really need to rest a little bit. And so it was 1 year off. Now I'm back. I'm taking my time. I'm not, rushing, to go to a place. And, in Iraq and Syria, ISIS, dying. I mean, it still exists, but, the caliphate is not there anymore. And, what will be the next thing? I don't know. To tell you that never again will I go, to these sort of places. I cannot, I told my friends, like 3 times before, I promise them and myself that I'm not doing it again, because after like a traumatic experience, but then, you take your time, you edit your documentary.
Yeah, we've talked about your credibility.
Yeah, exactly. So even I don't believe myself, I have my reputation as a journalist, but, in promising not to go to places, never trust me.
Well, at least we have a name for your biography. Everything is beautiful in Mosul.
And boring. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, thank you guys.
So if people want to, like, you're on social media and stuff?
Hopefully, within 2 months, I will have a site for myself, Itai Anghel. Other than that, I'm not so active. I have Facebook. I think I have Twitter, but I almost never use it.
Okay.
Hopefully, when I have this internet side of mine, I will be active. And then all my lectures and everything.
Yeah, and if like a community in the States wants to invite you for a lecture, how can they... Do you do that, and how can they contact you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing quite a few lectures in the US. My email is itai.anghel@gmail.com.
And you're on Facebook, so they can also reach you there, right?
Yeah. And I guess, within 2 months, I'll have the site and everything will work fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So,
before we go, we have a collaboration with the Jewish Journal, as we were telling you. JewishJournal.com, guys, check them out. They have great columns. They have other podcasts.
they're all great.
They're all great.
And also, we accept donations, so please help us out. Go to 2njb.com/donate and, contribute because we do it on our free time. And that is it. Thank you so much, Itai.
Thank you so much, guys.
Your pieces, like your articles, are they translated to English or?
Yeah. Everything is going to be on my site. Now
Okay.
you can find it here and there on Vimeo mainly, but yeah.
Okay,
they're going
so
to
that
be
people-
there. And if someone reaches me, with the email, I would be very happy. I will be pleased, to send him or her the mail. Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
With all the links.
Thank you so
Great.
much for coming. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks, guys. Bye.